All right, so we have After Effects open. I'm going to import the file that we prepared in Photoshop. And if you've downloaded the Step 2 hook photo format, bring that in here. Make sure that you can edit the layer styles. Bring it in as a composition. Okay. And then you will see that After Effects imports it. It has all of the layers here imported. And now if you just double click on this 1080p video format file that we set up in Photoshop, brings it in as a composition. Just double click on the composition. Okay, so you have your thing in After Effects. What's going on right now for me, this is at 100% down here, and you see that's kind of like cropping off some edges and it's not really fitting it in the area. So if you go down here and you just click fit, it will fit the whole frame into what I'm viewing here in as I'm animating. So now I'm just going to lift this up so I've got more space in this area down here. And you can see that I can start turning off the different layers. I'm not going to need this white layer, so I'm just going to delete that. So I have my background, I have my text, the Bea Fundi, and I have my hook. So right click, new, camera. We're going to set up a 3D camera. You can either set this up as a 35 or 50 mil. Those are my recommendations. So I'm just going to use 35 for now. Then right click, new, and null object. So After Effects uses null objects to do different things in different animation styles or techniques. In this case, we're going to use this null object as a tripod dolly. So I'm going to rename this tripod dolly so that we understand what it's actually doing. I'm just going to parent, grab this little curly cue here, parent the camera to the null object or the tripod dolly now. Now I'm going to turn all these things into, I'm going to click here, I'm going to turn all these things into 3D shape, 3D objects. If you don't see that, you toggle between controls. So you just click this little bar here called toggle switches. If you don't see that, it's been turned off. So After Effects sometimes turns that off. So you can click expand the switches and then you can toggle. So essentially what I've done is if I go to the active camera area here and go to custom view, I get this view that shows you that you've actually created this in 3D. I'm going to zoom out and you can see here's the camera right here. So if I turn the camera off, turn the camera on, there it is. If I go open up the tripod, open up the transform area, and start playing around with the anchor point, you can see that I'm zooming the camera in and out on the Z axis here. And the up and down, I think that's the Y axis. And on the X axis here, you can see what's happening. So I'm going to go back to the active camera. So if you can do everything in active camera, you don't need to go into custom view, but I'm going to just show you, the custom view shows you the 3D space that you've made. First thing I'm going to do here, just so you can see what's going on, here's my hook layer. So I'm going to open up that. I'm going to anchor point this hook way, way out. So what I've done is I've moved that closer to me in 3D space. So if I go to custom view 1, you can see that the hook has actually been dragged out in front. If I start dragging it the opposite direction, all of a sudden it might disappear on me because I've actually dragged it behind the background layer there, and you can see that there, right over here, it's behind now. So it actually hasn't disappeared, you just dragged it in 3D space behind it. So that gives you, I just go into the custom view 1 because it gives you a sense of what's actually going on. But I'm going to do most of the animation just in active camera, but that's just a quick demo of kind of like what's happening, right? So I'm just going to anchor point that in a nice spot that I want to start my animation. So the very first thing, what I recommend doing is throwing a simple dolly in camera animation on this. So to do that, I'm just going to set my anchor point here. I'm going to move my scrubber over. And I'm going to dolly in on that action right there. Move the scrubber over here. And you can see that that is going very, very, very slow. So I'm going to move those a little bit closer. The closer the keyframes are, the faster the animation is going to go. So this also needs to render the green here. Okay, so to save rendering time, and that what I'm going to recommend is grabbing this little workspace thing here and move that over and defining the gray area, you know, giving your 3-second. So you're not rendering this entire thing. You're just rendering the area that you want to see the animation. I'm going to want to move that in a little bit faster, so I'm going to move that in. You can see that the green is gone. Now if I hit the space bar to play that, so that's what I've done. I've just, in essence, hit the space bar, and that plays that. So that's a good speed. I'm happy with that speed. And I'm just going to move my work area over here so that I can keep kind of like repeating that motion. So now I have my simple dolly in shot. And now I'm going to animate the hook. I'm going to anchor point that. And I'm going to move that hook in at the same time. Let's do this. Maybe move it up a little bit as it comes in. And let's see what that looks like. Okay, I like that. That's a good dramatic feel to it. I'm just going to drag this over to here so it follows the same motion as my dolly. So if I want to be able to see both of the keyframes, the anchor point keyframes, I'm going to shift select the dolly and this, and then hit A. And then I can actually line up my anchor points so that the animation lines up for both the layers. Okay, so now I'm going to take the Bay of Fundy here, highlight this, hit A, and I can see there's the anchor point. So I just pressed A for the anchor point. I'm going to move this off to the side here. Maybe move this down a bit. Oh, see, it just disappeared. So what I'm going to want to do is hit S. So I just selected, I hit S there. Just going to scale that down a bit. So scales is scaling it. It's not actually interfering with the 3D-ness of it. So if I go into Custom View 1, let me show you the difference. So see, I'm just scaling that down. But if I'm on anchor point, so I just hit A on anchor point, and I start moving that back, it moves it behind there. That's what happened, right? So just keep that out. Let's go back to active camera. So hit S, and now scale that. That's where I want. I can hit A, back to anchor point, position that. Enable my keyframe, move this over, right? And as it comes in, drag this across here and maybe make it come to there. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so that is rendered, and that gives you the basics of what you can do in After Effects. So in part 2, I'm going to cover more camera motion and just sort of creating more dramatic movements within the animation and tinkering around with the keyframes in more detail. So if you want to check that out, feel free.